Good evening, everybody. You are watching the Just Keep Up podcast, where we're one step ahead. I'm Kurt Johnson. This is Pete Zindros. We're excited to be back to you guys here on this Monday. We have a great show planned for you tonight. We have a lot to talk about, guys, lots to get into. Big show. Our featured story tonight, we're going to be talking all about the Pheonix Suns and their honestly, bro, just complete disaster. I mean, the last couple of years, I mean, it just has ended in complete misery, honestly. And this year, they're not even going to make the play-in. What? Like not even the play-in tournament with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. And these guys aren't even good enough to make the play-in tournament. Like this is just unbelievable. I mean, they're in a dogfight with the Dallas Mavericks, who are struggling to find guys. They're going to forfeit games. They were almost going to forfeit games because they couldn't find guys. And this is who the Pheonix Suns can't beat in the standings. I mean, this is just has been an epic disaster. So we're going to talk about it, guys. And also, we haven't talked about the Pheonix Suns all year. So this would be a good time to talk about it. And Kevin Durant also twisted his ankle, so he's going to be out for at least a week. So you can probably pretty much end his season, which is which is pretty typical in regards to this team. So we're going to talk about the Pheonix Suns, guys. That's going to be our featured story. We're also going to talk about Taylor Jenkins and his firing. He was the head coach of the Memphis Grizzlies, and he got fired out of nowhere. At the time he got fired, they were fourth, tied for fourth in the Western Conference, and bound to make a good, solid playoff push. And out of nowhere, he gets fired. Suspiciously, no one knows about it. It happened from the higher ups. The players didn't know, no one knew, and they just let him go. By the way, just a side note, no team in NBA history changed coaches midseason and won the NBA championship. So this does not bode well for them. So we're going to talk about it. And then we're also going to talk about the massive scuffle between the Detroit Pistons and the Minnesota Timberwolves last night. Did you guys see that? That was pretty epic. I mean, 7 ejections, coaches, players, fans getting involved. It was a massive brawl. Just really crazy. So I haven't seen anything like that probably since the Palace. Probably like
Exactly. It's the same team.
yeah, exactly. And it's the same team. So yeah, guys, we're also gonna give our final thoughts on that debacle as well. So yeah, guys, it's gonna be a great show. Good to be back with you guys. I missed some time. But I'm happy to be back with you guys. So it's gonna be a great show. Before we get into it, I'm going to remind you to like and subscribe, help us to impact and to reach as many people as possible. And guys, I also just want to take a little bit of time to just thank all of you guys for being here tonight and just for your massive support through it all. I was just got done telling Pete before we started the show, but I've been going through a really rough time recently with everything going on in my life, and the support that I have is absolutely massive, and I want to give you guys a lot of credit for that. So thank you to those of you that follow me and support me and wish me well. I definitely hear all of these things, guys. So thank you so much for that. And then, guys, if you haven't already, follow me, guys, at Kurt's Philosophy. If you are interested in the world's deepest, darkest secrets, guys, we're on a massive roll. We haven't even been on YouTube for 3 months, and we are at 1,100 subscribers, guys. So again, thank you so much for the support, guys, and definitely go check me out at Kurt's Philosophy, guys. And then I'll turn it over to you, bro. Do you have anything before we start the show?
Yeah, just want to take a moment real quick. How do you guys like the new look? You guys like it? You guys dislike it? I decided to change it up a little bit.
I
And
like
all
it.
thanks, I appreciate that. And anyways, guys, yeah, Friday I actually went to an NBA game, the Brooklyn Nets versus the Los Angeles Clippers. I had a great view too. I posted, some clips up on my personal page if you're interested in, checking out my experience there. I even made the big screen with my boy there. Yeah, like I made the big screen too, guys, and I got it all on video. So go check it out if you want on at Pete's YouTube Shorts.
Very good. I love that. I love that. Yeah, guys. So we'll get started here. Let's start with the Phoenix Suns. Okay, the Phoenix Suns got absolutely shellacked in their last game, 148 to 109. The game was never really close at all. In every single quarter, uh, Houston put up at least 34 points, at least. And in one quarter, they put up 47 points. Okay, so that goes to show you the dominance or lack thereof from the Suns. It's tough to say who really gets credit for this. But so just what's your take overall on the Suns season? Obviously, they're 11th in the West. They're one game back behind Dallas. But what's your take on just the way that this season has gone? Also, Kevin Durant has gone down as well, so he's probably going to be out for the remainder of the year. But just what's your overall take on this Phoenix Suns team? Why hasn't it worked?
Well, the reason why it has not worked is because they're simply not good on either end of the basketball. They suck on offense and they suck on defense. Watching them play, it's like watching the Kevin Durant Brooklyn Nets play all over again, except these guys are even worse. And notice how both teams' best player was Kevin Durant. What does this tell you guys? This clearly tells you that this guy just isn't a freaking leader, bro. How do you have Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, even though he's not the Bradley Beal he once was, but he's still Bradley Beal. How the hell do you have these two guys and you can't even lead a team to a play in over a crippled Dallas Mavericks? Like, this is just flat out embarrassing. Like, when you go look at the numbers, he still has the numbers. He's still dropping an efficient 27 points per game. He's doing that, but he's absolutely terrible on defense. Not to mention Booker and then everyone else on that team doesn't defend either. And their system just looks so garbage, guys. Like, everybody out there is just playing your turn, my turn all the time, just like it was on the Brooklyn Nets, except the only difference was that team was better than this one. But they played the same exact way, and both of those teams were led by Kevin Durant. This clearly just shows you that the guy just really isn't a leader. Like, I mean, his whole career, he's never won without the greatest team of all time. Like, as talented as he is, the guy just isn't a leader. Like, I'm sorry. This guy literally cannot even make the play in with Devin Booker and Bradley Beal.
Yeah. I have a little bit of a different take. What happened with this Phoenix Suns team? The first thing is, I think what's going on here is the biggest thing is they have no bench. They have no bench, which plays a factor. I mean, you see the last couple teams to win championships, they have multiple guys that can get it done. They whether they have a number one, whether they have a number one or 1A, 1B, but they also have a bunch of role players that can also chip in, right? Like, the problem is they don't have anyone else that's gonna produce outside of those big three. Everyone else is extremely unpredictable, and that's the problem. There's no reliability there with their team, specifically coming off the bench. They have no spark plug. They have no guy that can come in and provide energy and effort. Like, they don't have that, right? And you need that to win big games. You need that to win championships, right? The next thing is they don't play defense. And simply, you need to play defense to win championships. I know that that's a cliche, but it's the truth. If you don't defend, you're gonna lose, right? People think about the high power Golden State teams that won championships, but no one knows that they were a top 10 defense as well. So Klay Thompson in his prime was a great defender. Kevin Durant in his prime was a really good defender. Steph Curry in his prime wasn't a good on-ball defender, but at one point he led the league in steals for guards, right? So these guys defended. They had Sean Livingston defender, Leandro Barbosa defender, etc. So you need guys that could defend and that can hit shots and that are reliable in that manner, and they don't have that, right? So they don't have the roster construction to be an elite team, right? And then obviously, no leadership as well. So when you combine that with no leadership, no structure, no culture, no bench, it ends with this, right? And so this is kind of what you get. And I think another thing is when they built this roster, I think everyone kind of knew that the Bradley Beal thing made no sense. But the problem is they have multiple guys that do the same exact thing. And the construction of the team is just it just doesn't make sense at all. Why would you get Bradley Beal when you can get other guys that fit well around Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, right? Like this isn't, 2012, 2011, where you compare a big three and they're probably going to make the conference finals. This isn't that time anymore. This isn't a time where you compare, Melo and Stoudemire and Chandler and say, okay, no bench, but it's okay. These guys are going to make a run. That's not today's NBA game. It's not. This isn't Miami, where you could have a bunch of no names, Norris Cole, Mario Chalmers, and just pair them with LeBron, D Wade, and Bosh, and they're going to make the finals. This isn't that anymore. Look at the teams that won the championships previously, right? The Bucks, great bench, great role players. The Warriors, obviously, great role players. Wiggins stepped up in a big way, right? All the young guys, they stepped up in the finals, right? So it was a great team. They didn't have a big three. Boston, right? They don't even know who's 1A and who's the 1A, who's the 1B. Who is it? I don't know, but they have a great team, right? And so when you look at the previous championships, the previous champions, they've won by having a team and they've won by playing together. And this is not this Pheonix Suns team.
I do agree with everything you said, but the thing is, I'm not expecting that roster to win a championship. All I'm expecting is for Kevin Durant to give them a chance. And he can't even get them to the play-in with Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. Like, I'm not expecting them to be able to win with no bench, no defenders, not very good offensive players outside of their big three. I'm not expecting them to win a championship. It takes a well-constructed roster to win a championship, but all I'm simply asking is Kevin Durant to just give him a chance, and he's not doing that. I mean, he's not even getting them to the play-in, and he has Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, so that's mainly what I'm shitting on him for. I'm not expecting them to go on like this run or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, I also think it's important to also take into consideration that Kevin Durant is 37 years old. And at this point, I don't think any of us still expects him to be the best player. At least I don't. I expect the best player to be 27, 28-year-old Devin Booker. That's who I expect to be the best player. I don't expect, LeBron has truly set the standard where, he's 38, he's 37. I think he won his last championship at 36. But, he sets the standard recently where it's like, oh, okay, he's older. He can still get done. Steph Curry won at 33. So they're like, yeah, he could still, like this isn't, these are what are some of the all-time great players. And I just don't think that's fair to put it on Kevin Durant. I think going into it, I think you have to lean at Devin Booker and you have to say, you have Kevin Durant. You have a good 1B. Why can't you, get it done? And you look at the stat sheet and he's shooting 14 times. Why are you shooting only 14 times with a team outside of Durant, can't buy a basket? Bradley Beal cannot buy a basket, especially recently. So, it's like, why are you only taking 14 shots? And then you realize it's because they have no leader. And Devin Booker's obviously not a number one. I think this is a more indictment on Devin Booker than it is on Kevin Durant. I don't think, even if Kevin Durant had a better year, like let's say the Suns had a better year. Sorry, bro. Let's say the Suns had a better year, but they didn't win the championship. What does this tell you about Kevin Durant? Nothing. We all think the same thing about Kevin Durant. Like with the same way, we're gonna think about Kevin Durant the same way. They ended not winning no championship. So what's the indictment? He's 37 years old. He had major injuries. He came here to get massive help from Bradley Beal and Devin Booker. That hasn't worked out. And I think he just made some poor choices. I think you could criticize his poor choices, but I don't think you could criticize, his game or anything like that and say, why hasn't he got them over the hump? He's not supposed to. He's supposed to lean on Devin Booker to do that, and he can't, unfortunately.
Well, Devin Booker, I think we could all agree this guy's not a number one option. I think pretty much everybody could agree on that. But we do look at Kevin Durant as the number one option because at one point this guy was a top five player. Now he's basically like borderline top 10 or maybe just outside of that, even though I still have him top 10 personally. But yeah, this is why Durant deserves most of the blame because we're looking at him as the number one guy because he is a two-time Finals MVP. However, it was with the greatest team ever, and outside of that, he's never had championship success, and he was probably the second best player in the game at one point. So what I'm saying is that this guy just isn't a leader. Like you look at his pedigree and all that, he's never proven it before. Like even the last couple years before this, like whether it was with the Brooklyn Nets or the Phoenix Suns, it was just a bunch of playoff chokes. Like Booker, we don't expect Booker to be the best player. I mean, Devin Booker never even made the playoffs before he even had another star on his team. Like before Chris Paul got there, they were literally picking top five in the lottery every year. Then once Chris Paul got there, they went on like that little finals run, and then they sent him out for Kevin Durant. And now somehow they can't even get back into play in either. So even though Durant is old and he's been through injuries, going off of his past, he hasn't done much better without the greatest team of all time. That's why I'm putting this on him.
Right, but my thing is like we knew that already. So like I'm not gonna put this on Kevin. If he couldn't even do this at 28, what makes you think he's gonna do it at 38? I never thought he was gonna be the best player on a winning team. I never thought that. I thought that if this Suns thing would work, is because Devin Booker ascends to being, a top 10, a top five player. And unfortunately, he just hasn't done that. Right. And I think LeBron has set the standard to be like, oh, you can be old and still be the best player when you can't expect that from a guy who, tore his ACL. He had a bunch of injuries here and there. Like he's not the same player that he was. Right. I think you can question his decision making, but that's really all about it. Like, I don't think you could say this specifically is on Kevin Durant because he's not supposed to perform the way that he did 10 years ago. He's still scoring, but the problem is uh, they're not as meaningful, right? They're not as influential, right? His baskets, he's not controlling the game the way he once was. And I remember a lot of times we said that about LeBron until he changed his game. But as he was getting older, we're like, dang, he's still averaging 27, 28. He even averaged 30 one year. And it's like, but the points aren't as meaningful, right? They're not as he can't control the game the way that he once did. So how did he change his game? You know, he started getting on the block and he started, grinding out these games and he started playing power forward with Anthony Davis and they won a championship together. Right. But I think that that's an anomaly situation. I think now with Kevin Durant being 37, going on 38 years old, I don't think you could pin why they didn't work out on him. I think you could question his decision making, but the main blame is obviously the roster construction.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you. The only part that we seem to disagree is just about Durant. I'm blaming him because he never even proved this ever to begin with. I mean, I get it, he's old now, but going off of his past as well, it's like without the greatest team ever, he never did anything. So that's why I'm pointing the blame at him because people expect this guy to be a number one option when in reality, he hasn't proven it without the greatest team ever. That's why I'm still kind of blaming him. But if you want to say, you expected this because he's old and stuff like that, then that's fine. But I'm still going to shit on him for it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think we're kind of agreeing. Like I said, I just think that I didn't expect Kevin Durant to do it anyway. So how could he have the blame? If if I hire someone and I expect them to be terrible, and then I walk inside of my store and it looks terrible, I'm not going to blame him because I already knew in my head that it was going to be terrible. So I'm not blaming him. I can only blame myself for putting myself in that situation, honestly. So that's the way that I see it personally. I think that the main thing is roster construction and the ability to not pair Kevin Durant with more players that fit his game and that can elevate him and Devin Booker's games. So that's a little disappointing. Um, but yeah, we'll move on. We'll get into our next topic here, which is the Taylor Jenkins firing. So this caught everybody off guard. Okay, so this is an article here. It says it's from The Athletic. It says explaining the Grizzlies' odd timing behind firing Taylor Jenkins as NBA playoffs near. Why did the Grizzlies fire head coach now? Midday on Friday, the Grizzlies decided to fire their head coach, Taylor Jenkins. The firing itself wasn't shocking because there had been a long signs that were ahead of the split. It was the timing that was the shock because it happened with 9 games left to go in the season, where the Grizzlies are battling for the number 4 seed in the Western Conference. Like they're literally the 4 seed in the Western Conference. Uh, it simply just says the Grizzlies front office and Jenkins were not on the same page with how they wanted the team to play, with schematic stuff, with how he was motivating his guys. There's a clip going around social media. They were down 20 and he was dancing with John Morant, and they were down 20. And this seemed to be the straw that broke the camel's back, was that for sure. At least social media's framing it that way. So what is your take on Taylor Jenkins getting fired, specifically getting fired with 9 games left to go when they were tied for the 4th seed in the tough Western Conference?
That's terrible management. You can't fire your coach when you're fourth seed in the West. In my personal opinion, I think Taylor Jenkins is a really good coach. Like, I mean, the roster he has, I mean, when you look at it, can any of us say this team is going to win a championship? No, you're just going to look at it and say it's a playoff team. And that's exactly what he's done with that roster. He takes them to the playoffs every year, but ultimately, they're not a championship team. And going off of, some of his past seasons where, he hasn't had John Morant much, there are statistics that back up that he had his team playing better without John Morant. So Taylor Jenkins kind of has an idea of what he's doing out there. So the fact that him and the GM were having disagreements, I'm on Taylor Jenkins' side here. He seems to have an idea of what he wants in the court, how he wants things to work. Because, I mean, the stats can even back up that this guy knows how to coach the game pretty well. And regardless, bro, even if you have disagreements with the guy, you're literally 4th seed right now. Don't you at least want to give the playoffs a go and see how far you can get before you make a decision to potentially move on? Like, I get it. There's some franchises that, even though they have a good coach and stuff, they feel like they can get like an upgrade. So they fire them once they get bounced in the playoffs and stuff. But why don't you wait till you get bounced in the playoffs? Like, what is the point of firing him with 9 games left? You might as well just test your luck and see what you can do in the playoffs before you ultimately decide to make a decision. Like, you can't just fire your coach in the middle of the year when you're a top 4 seed.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the only way you fire a coach mid-season, the only logical explanation is if the team is underperforming drastically, then you need to make a change to save your season. But they're 4 seed, they were tied for 4 seed in the Western Conference when they fired him. So now what you're basically telling the world is, I don't care about results. This is personal, right? And so if it's personal, you have to put your personal feelings aside for the betterment of your franchise. And then after, when the season's over and no one can be affected by it that much, then you can say, oh, by the way, that conversation that we had a couple months ago, let's address it now, right? But to just completely say we don't care about results, they clearly don't care about results because they were 4 seed in the Western Conference. So what you're saying is, I don't care about results. This is personal, right? And again, you're putting your personal decisions ahead of the franchise, and this will not bode well. There's reports going on in the media that John Morant was not happy about this, and he hasn't been happy recently with his role in the offense. With he wants more pick and rolls, and the team wants to run more action, and he wants just pick and roll, and he wants to attack the basket. The team's kind of been moving away from that. His usage rate has been down all year. His minutes have been down all year. And this is supposed to be their franchise guy. He's getting paid the big bucks. And he just hasn't been happy with his role. Now, there's reports that saying that Jenkins knew this and kind of was on John Morant's side. And the higher ups just was not okay with that. So there was a disagreement there. But ultimately, I don't think this was about the schematics. I think this was about Taylor Jenkins personally. Something happened which caused them to let him go with only 9 games left in the regular season. But extremely poor management, and this is why they are where they are. They'd be dying to have Dylan Brooks right now, and they let him walk. So this tells you their franchise, and it's gonna be rough for them moving forward for sure. Um, and there's talks about giving Triple J the super max and all these things. Like they're gonna be in trouble. But yeah, guys, we'll move into our last story here, which is the massive fight, the massive scuffle. So this is from America's Politics, actually. It says 5 players, 2 coaches ejected after Pistons Timberwolves fight in the second quarter. 5 players and 2 coaches were ejected after a fight broke out in the second quarter in the Minnesota Timberwolves victory over the Detroit Pistons on Sunday night. Detroit lost head coach J.B. Bickerstaff, center Isaiah Stewart, forward Ron Holland II, and guard Marcus Sazer. Minnesota lost forward Naz Reid and point guard Dante DiVincenzo were all tossed along with assistant coach Pablo Prigioni. Bickerstaff said, obviously things went too far, but you see is guys looking out for one another, guys trying to protect one another, and guys trying to have each other's backs. So guys, I don't know if you guys have seen it. If you haven't already, I'm pretty sure you guys all have, but it was a massive just fight, I guess. Naz Reid goes up for a layup. He gets hit. He points his finger, and I believe it was Holland's face, and then that starts to fight. Isaiah Stewart somehow gets involved. DiVincenzo somehow gets involved, and it starts to become an all-out brawl from there. Coaches, players. It was a massive fight. I honestly, I will say my take, but I didn't like it at all. But just what's your take on this massive fight? Do you feel like it's good for the game? It's bad for the game? Do you feel like it benefits a team? It hurts a team? And then the last thing I'll say before I turn it over is the league is heavily considering the rest of the year suspensions for players and coaches. Okay, so this is probably a season-ending cost for a player or a coach. So what's your take on all that?
Violence is never good. However, I love that this fight happened. And let me explain why. Let me explain why. The NBA is just so soft nowadays, guys. Like, I'm not one of those old heads that's gonna sit here and act like the 80s and 90s was more talented than today's game, because it's not. But the one thing I can give to those guys back then is mentally, they were just tougher. They were tougher. They didn't act like bitches. They didn't ask for trades all the time. They didn't ask to be load managed and all this crap. And the league today is just so soft in that aspect, guys. So the fact that we had a fight like this, it kind of brings some intensity back to the game. Like, we need the league to just toughen up a bit more. From that perspective, I enjoyed this fight. But I do admit violence is never good, but I think this one time the NBA needed like a little push towards, unsoftening the league up a bit.
Okay. So I have the complete opposite take that you do. I thought that this was terrible for the game, and I thought that this was terrible for the players, terrible for the coaches, terrible for the league, and terrible for the officials moving forward. And I hear not only you, but people have this conception that this was good for the league because it's gonna send a message to toughen it up. But it's actually going to do the exact opposite, unfortunately. What it's going to do is it's going to make the officiating even more ticky-tack, because they're going to try to avoid this from happening. So, and what is this buildup of? This buildup is off of being micromanaged. But unfortunately, the league is going to see this, and they're going to say, rightfully so, this can never happen again. Okay, the fans were involved. Okay, and I don't think any fan got hurt. But if a fan did get hurt, they could have sued the league. So this is a big issue that they're going to make sure this never happens again, which is why they're considering the rest of the year suspensions. Okay, there's going to be heavy suspensions, heavy fines, and the officiating is going to crack down on minor things. You're going to get a tech for minor things. We saw right after this Dylan Brooks get ejected for basically nothing. Okay, so this is going to, if you're a guy who likes the contact and likes the physicality and likes this stuff, you're actually, this was not good for you. This was bad because it's going to just heighten the officiating up right in time for the postseason. So I think this was bad for the people that like that stuff. And I just think this was bad all around. It was a bad look for coaches. It shows that you can't hold your emotions in check. You can't hold your players in check. For the players, it's bad. It shows that there's truly no brotherhood in basketball. A lot of people hate this stuff, but there needs to be a respect factor where it's like, this person has a family, this person's going to training every day, this person's doing all this person's doing all that. Like, I'm not saying you have to kiss their ass, but what I'm saying is this level of disrespect, there is no room for that in this game, right? You're pointing in people's faces, you're punching people in the face. It's like, bro, over basketball, bro. Like, there's bigger things in life, trust me, than basketball. Okay, so I get that you're passionate about the game, but how much of it is that, and how much of it is just uh you acting like a female, losing your cool, not knowing how to control your emotions? There's a difference, right? I'm not gonna punch a guy in the face because he lowered his shoulder, right? Like, I'm not gonna risk getting into a brawl. God forbid there was a child right there, which there probably was, right? Like, God forbid I hit a child or whatever trying to hit some grown man because I can't control my emotions. And God forbid that little child gets hurt. Now they sue, now it becomes a whole thing, right? So this was just a bad look for the league, bad look for the players, and especially bad for people that like the physicality because the officiating is definitely going to be micromanaged to a T from here.
I mean, I do feel bad for the fans. Like, I don't think, the it had to get to the point where the fans got involved. But I think the opposite of you though. I think this brawl actually might toughen up the league a little bit, in my personal opinion at least. Like I said, a lot of these guys are just soft nowadays. They think they could do whatever they want. Player empowerment has gotten out of control, and I think this could be one step towards toughening up the league a little more.
But I just don't know what that has to do with this scuffle. I mean, it's literally just guys acting like females, not being able to control their emotions and just punching dudes in the face like that. This has nothing to do with player empowerment or being tough or anything. Being tough, you know what being tough is? Being tough is when a guy low, shoulders you or whatever. Being tough is saying, okay, watch this and give them 40. That's what being tough is. And then giving them the bye-bye after you bust their, you know what. That's being tough, right? Being tough is not being able to control your emotions and slapping people and potentially putting fans at risk, right? Like, this isn't tough at all. Like, in my opinion, this isn't tough. And what is this going to do? It's literally, all it's going to do is the officials are going to say this cannot happen again. You think Adam Silver looks at this and says this is good for the league? Adam Silver is looking at this and saying this shit can never happen again, right? So he's going to be very hard on these officials. Yo, I want you to call anything that you could think that's going to heighten a situation to make it like this. This cannot happen, right? So I think that's more than likely what's going to happen from this.
You know what the NBA should do? They should make me the commissioner. I'll allow it. That's what they should do. But yeah, I mean, if Adam Silver just looks at this and tries to, make the refs even softer than they already are, then he needs to be fired.
Yeah, it's gonna happen, bro, because this is just a bad look for the league. It's just a very bad look. Like I said, there's kids at the game, and it's just a really bad look. If a kid gets hurt, God forbid, like there's a lot that goes into it, bro. And I think this is just a bad look on everyone involved. So um but yeah, guys, we'll move on here. We'll get to the end of the show. It was a massive show, guys. We went over the Pheonix Suns and Kevin Durant, or as Pete would say, Kevin Defraud. We went over the 5 players and 2 coaches that were ejected from this massive fight. And then we went over the Taylor Jenkins odd firing and Memphis's potential from here. So, guys, it was a great show. Before we get out of here, guys, I'm just quickly going to remind you to like and subscribe, help us to impact and to reach as many people as possible. Guys, if you enjoyed today's show, guys, check me out, guys, at Kurt's Philosophy if you are interested in the world's deepest, darkest secrets. And then we'll catch you guys again on Wednesday with a casual Wednesday. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching.